Sai, finally. Okay, it's come on, but all right. Okay, hi, and hopefully my sister will be joining soon as well. Sai, I'm sorry, man. I'm a tech cretin. What can I say?
I'm a mechanical engineer who struggles with computers.
I need some youngsters around me, man, to help. I'm 48 years old and I'm clearly struggling with this shit. I'm gonna do some training sessions. Didi needs to just accept, just apply to join this. I did send her an invitation. Okay, Sai, let us begin our conversation. Bhavna Di will join soon. Someone will tell her to just exit and then come back, go to the live and request to join, and I will bring her in straight away as soon as she joins. Sorry about this, Sai. Let's begin our conversation. Everyone here, my apologies for the tech trouble. As you can clearly see, I'm a tech cretin. Sai, you're clearly better than I am on this.
No. So congratulations on the launch of this book. First, you have to tell us the secret of launching a book each year. What do you do exactly? How do you make time for it?
Well, the secret of this book was actually very simple because Bhavna Di and I wrote it together. So my capacity was expanded twice. And my family, we read a lot, and Bhavna Didi is far smarter than I am. So she works much quicker than she's 8 years elder to me. She reads a lot more than I do. I read only 5-6 books per month. She probably reads 9-10. So only my dad used to read more than my sister. So we worked together on this book. Didi and I worked together on a book called Dharma prior to Idols as well, where we discussed the philosophies of Dharma from trying to make it easy for people to understand from that perspective. Yeah.
Okay.
Workaholic and a good family. That's a secret.
So I was just wondering, considering that it is usually said that the concept of Murti worship is not to be traced directly to the Vedas. What's your position on the scriptural position on Murti Puja? Where do you think it is to be traced?
You're right. Look, it's not there in the in our very ancient traditions. There, it was more around home and yajna. Murti Puja emerged only later, and perhaps in the Puranic age.
I see.
But essentially, look, what is the root of Murti Puja? The root of that is essentially seeing the entire universe as divine, right? In those who reject idols, their approach to murtis is that only the god is divine, and usually a male god.
Right.
Goddesses are particularly profane in that scheme of things.
Right.
And the entire universe is vulgar, profane, impure in many ways, and all of us are in a way carrying an original sin. But our ancient traditions, even prior to the Murti Puja, saw all of us as divine, right? And if you think about it, then Murti Puja is essentially a step forward from there. I am seeing the rivers as divine. I'm seeing the earth, Mother Earth, as divine. I'm seeing you and me as divine. That's what Namaste means. So therefore, to bring focus to my bhakti, I will make a murti as well, and I will see that as divine too. So it's actually a step forward from the thought that the entire universe is divine. It's not profane. It's not sin-ridden.
Is it possible to make the argument that, sorry, I'm constantly in a lawyer mode, so I'm constantly making an argument, but that Murti Puja was evolved as a means of making our faith even more accessible to those who may not have the levels of concentration required to focus on a formless being? Is that possible?
Completely. And in fact, that is the best way to see it, because there is the Nirgun Nirakar concept, no doubt about it. Sorry, just give me one sec, Sai. My sister just joined. I'm just accepting so that she can go in with you. It had taken a few attempts to go live and then it had come on. But she's at least on the right track now. I just have to keep accepting and she'll come back on. Okay. The entire concept is, look, the concept of Nirgun Nirakar is very difficult for most people to understand. It takes, you have to go much further down the path of Jnana to be able to get it. And there is a step onwards, there's a step process towards it. And in a way, the divine is coming closer to you, right? Through Murtis. And in fact, that's what we try and explain through the books. Your Ishta Devata, essentially, you find the Ishta Devata that appeals to your particular path on this journey, on this particular life. And then that Ishta Devata will then help you rise spiritually. So actually, yeah, that's a better way to see Murti Puja. That it's a way to go deeper.
How much have you had to refer to Agama Shastras in the process of writing this book?
Lots. So a part of it is of course from from our Shastras, from our Smartas, but part of it also, look, because the entire aim in this is to make it understandable to the lay reader.
Right.
The sad truth is, in today's day, most people actually are not aware of our ancient texts. It's not taught to us. So what we try and do is make it as easy and understandable as possible. How do we, so even modern examples, even discussions around movies, for example. So we use, what PK says. If you remember that movie PK, I'd written an article at that time.
Right.
How Bollywood movies approach us, Greek myths, various other stories as well, besides our own traditions and texts, to give people an easier way to get into this. At this point in time, the real problem, and which is where actually this book began, the real problem is even those who say they are proud Hindus, there are many among them who in some ways are defensive about Murti Puja, about idol worshipping.
Right.
I have, I had this, one of the triggers for this book was actually at a lit fest, where I had this youngster who had, most of my readers are the youth.
Correct.
So he told me, Amish, I like your books. I'm a very proud Hindu, but obviously I'm not an idol worshipper. And I asked him, but why? Why aren't you an idol worshipper? Why aren't you a Murti Puja? He said, because I know that's obviously not God. So I said, but who told you, that it's not God? But I didn't want to embarrass him further. He was with his friends. So I just let him, get on to his question. But that actually, and we discussed that at home, the other day, that, post that event, that how many of us Hindus ourselves do not understand the power and the beauty of Murti Puja. Because for so many centuries, people have been repeatedly telling us that Murti Puja is wrong, it is stupid, it is, and at the least it is stupid. Dekho in gadon ko patthar ki puja kar rahe. At the worst, of course, that we all need to be wiped out. And we ourselves don't understand the power and beauty of this philosophy. Over the last 2,000 years, many cultures have gone around the world massacring. Sorry, my sister's trying to join again. There's some technique. I think we can write a post on how to do Instagram lives without. Because I'm keeping on trying to accept her, and then she doesn't come on, and then she sends me a live video. Okay, this is a comedy that's happening. In any case, the point is, if you see over the last 1,500, 2,000 years, there were cultures that went around the world massacring uh, so-called idol worshipping cultures.
Right.
Right. There was almost no case study of the reverse. Not just in India, anywhere in the world. Right. No Murti Puja culture went around the world that if you're not worshipping idols, I will kill you, I will kill your entire family, I'll kill your entire village,
Right.
I will wipe your entire civilization out, and apparently I'm doing it for your benefit.
Right.
Why did that not happen? And if it didn't happen in any culture, then it's not a coincidence. It's a part of the design that those who worship murtis intuitively become liberal. I'm not saying that all murti pujaks are perfect. There are faults in our way also. We must, of course, self-reform. But our intuitive liberalism is actually one of our greatest strengths. And that is something that we wanted to explore through this book. Why is that so?
So one of the things that I was wondering was, while it's been easy to understand the iconoclasm of, let's say, Middle Eastern traditions, what do you make of the iconoclasm of those faith systems which we consider Bharatiya, such as the materialists and the Charvaks? If not, of course, they're not a faith system. And of course, latter-day movements such as the Arya Samaji movement. What is your take on their understanding of Murti Puja, and how would you reconcile their rejection of Murti Puja with the Hindu Dharma's acceptance and embracing of Murti Puja? How would you reconcile both the positions?
Two key words in this: mutual respect. There is absolutely no problem if someone decides they don't want to be Murti Pujaks. Fair enough, right? And in fact, like I said, there are many Nirgun Nirakar followers who do not want to be Murti Pujak. My father, for example, was a Nirgun Nirakar. He was closer to the Vedas, right? And more into the Upanishads and philosophies. There is no problem with that. There has never been a problem with that in the Indian way. The problem is if you do not have mutual respect. If you say that I will not worship murtis, but I will not allow you to worship murtis either. That's where the problems begin. When you don't have that space for mutual respect. And if you notice, for example, we had, European Christians and Turkic Muslims, invading India and many other parts of the world. But Indonesian Muslims didn't do much. African Christians didn't do much. Right? They didn't go around massacring people.
Right.
And I'm saying in the historical age.
Right.
The last 1500, 2000 years. And even within India, those who did not want to worship idols or murtis, they never went around attacking or destroying. I'm going to destroy this university because it's preaching Murti Puja. It'll just be, I won't do it. Fair enough. Right. Even within the Jain and Buddhist Sampradaya, there are some who do not worship murtis. Right? And we are all aware of that. And in my building, there are Jains who live that way. So some of the Therapathis. Didi is joined finally. Didi, technical troubles have been sorted. Okay, that's Bhavna Didi, and that is J.Sai Deepak. Didi, I was just finishing a question. Sai, it's not whether you're willing to worship murtis or not. That's the key issue.
Right.
The point is, are you willing to give freedom to others to follow their own path? And you will find that those of us who are murti pujaks, we automatically, almost intuitively respect someone else's path because it comes with our way of life. Like, let me give you an example. We are North Indians, Didi and I. We were, our father's family is from Kashi, mother's family from Gwalior. So in our tradition, Lord Karthik is and this is a very small example, but Lord Karthik is a bachelor, right? In the North Indian tradition. I don't know if you're aware of that side. And
So Garuti has
but
two wives and
in,
Kartikeya is a brahmachari, and it's the other way around in the south.
it's the other way around in South India. I discovered that because I studied in South India. I studied in Tamil Nadu. And I remember, and I was, I think, in the fourth standard when I went down to Tamil Nadu. And I remember the first time I'd come back, and I had asked my mother, "Arey, you told me, Lord Karthik is a bachelor. I discovered he has two wives. What is going on?" And she just said that, they have a right to their point of view. We have a right to our point of view. And who are we to force our way on them, and who are they to force their view on us? And my mother, and I've said this often before, that in North India, she doesn't enter a Lord Karthik temple. Many women actually don't enter Lord Karthik temples in North India because it is believed that he is the Lord of War. So, if women enter, then their husbands, brothers, they may join the army and they don't want to lose them. But in South India, my mother enters Lord Karthik temples, right? And if you think about it, this acceptance of multiple truths comes instinctively to those of us who are Murti Pujaks. We just have to ensure that those who are not Murti Pujaks accept that as well. That you have your point of view, don't force it on me. That's all. Because I'm not forcing my point of view on you.
Right. Has the theological reason for Murti Puja been the same across cultures, or have they been different in terms of motivations? Why is it that they felt the need to worship Murtis, say in pre-Christian Europe or in Egypt or Bharat? Why was Murti Puja such a common feature where the motivations common?
Didi, you want to answer that on pre-Christian Europe, on Murti Puja, on idol worshipping there?
To begin with, Saiji, namaskar. I am a tremendous fan, and it's an honor.
Thank you. Very kind of you.
Be on the same panel as you. It's truly an honor. Murti Puja actually was, spread out all over the world pre the birth of Abrahamic religions. Actually, the Abrahamic stream was a complete a fracture, from the pre-Abrahamic symbolic form of worshipping. It was symbolic. It was active. It was goddess driven. The female, Navratri hai is samay. The female was a very important aspect of divinity. And the Abrahamic God came with, the sheer power of, the masculine, one God. Not only was this one God masculine, he was also a jealous God, as has doctrinally been written. He was jealous. He wanted, to be worshipped alone. And there was a fall in, worship of the feminine and the goddess. It was all over the world, from Egypt to Greece to Rome, to, Central America, South America, North America, Japan, even China. It was all over the world. This was symbolic worshipping. And, हम बोलते हैं कि मूर्ति पूजा is different from idol worshipping क्योंकि हम प्राण प्रतिष्ठा करते हैं.
जी.
Actually, there was a symbolic rite of worship of all other pagan cultures as well. The Book of the Dead is, the Egyptian Book of the Dead is full of, elaborate rituals that were conducted for the gods and the goddesses. Even the Greek, oracle worship, rituals were very elaborate. तो ऐसा नहीं था कि वहाँ rituals नहीं थे associated with the idols that the ancient world worshipped.
So what do you make of the importance of rituals which go along with Murti Puja? Why are rituals so central? And how do you actually emphasize on their importance for, let's say, preservation of energy?
Sorry, Didi, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
But before Didi, Sai, my view is, and this is, I'm quoting an example that my mother had told me once, that rituals are essentially, she used this simile, which she'd read somewhere, that essentially they're the boats that you use to cross the river of ignorance, to get to the other side, so that you can be closer to the divine, that you can be the divine. And she said one of the ways to know that you have crossed over is when you don't judge anyone else, right? But once you've crossed over, you don't carry the boat on your head. You don't need it anymore because you moved beyond the rituals, right? But if you judge those who are still using the boat, then Ma had said then that actually translates as you still haven't crossed over. You're in a worse situation because actually you're still on a boat of rituals, but you think you have crossed over. And which is where I find many of the people who attack rituals. And many of these rituals had a logic to it. Even simple things like, tying it around your, your ear when you go out, so that you actually just bring in just washing your hands and putting it back. A lot of them had actually logical, which would actually aid your health, aid so many other things. Things like a tulsi plant in the angan always. Now we have researched the health benefits of it. So there's that background as well. But Didi, if you want to add on the scriptures behind it.
I agree with you on the relationship between rituals and logic, but I would say that it goes beyond logic. For the past 500 years, we lived in awe of reason and logic. It's very important, but beyond reason and logic, wonder is important, awe is important, intuition is very important. They're feminine concepts. Rituals, I believe, have one very important role of helping us be in the present moment. Our mind is constantly fluctuating between the past and the present. We're not completely in the present. Rituals actually, dhyan, they're related to attention. Ceremony, the beautiful aspect of ceremony helps us remain in the present moment. Of course, how you remain in the present worst self all the time, as Shakuni did. Shakuni was always in the present moment, but he brought his worst self to the present moment all the time. Rituals train us to be with dhyan in the present moment with our best version, our sense of awe, our wonder, our involvement with ceremony, which is beautiful.
So over the last 500 to 600 years, my reading of history tells me something, and I could be entirely wrong about this. Ever since the birth of the Protestant Reformation, which has led to de-ritualization of Christianity because of its, let's say, its protest or resistance to Catholicism, that spirit has pervaded all other faiths as well, which have come into contact with the Protestant European colonizer. In the process, what has happened is that gradually, even Indic faith systems have started questioning the need for rituals, and each of those sampradayas within our faith systems, which have gone through de-ritualization, have lost vigor, have lost vitality, and have lost the ability to retain their spiritual core with time. In fact, it's my perhaps very crude reading that de-ritualization has translated to gradual loss of identity itself of the faith. What is your take on it, and how do you see it?
I couldn't agree more. But one of the ways I'm living in the West, in the UK right now, it's not that all rituals were destroyed. It was a replacement. there were secular rituals that were added in, so there's a ritual in graduation out here, your graduation ceremony, the hat that you wear, that's also a ritual, actually, if you think about it. What is a ritual? It's something that gets your mind into that present moment and works as a rite of passage. So they created these secular rituals, all right, which removed the divine aspect from it. Over time, as it moved further and further, and one is seeing it in the West. Even the secular rituals started coming under attack. Is this a good idea? We are seeing it in the West, because the West, in terms of this revolution, is a few decades ahead of the rest of the world. There is a problem of loneliness. There is a problem of asabya. There is a problem of societal cohesion in the West that one can clearly see. So I couldn't agree more with you that there's a value to rituals. Even rituals which may appear at a surface level very profane. Something as simple as the entire family must sit together and have one meal together. I know it sounds like a very silly idea, but what does it do? You're sitting together once, having a meal, talking to each other, it builds those bonds. Okay? If even this starts disappearing, your family bonds start disappearing. But the rituals, when you add divinity to it, have even greater meaning. Right? Because there's not just your family coming together, it's your community coming together, various sampradayas coming together, which is why it's one of the reasons I have defended many of our festival rituals. So when Jallikattu was attacked, at that time, I'd written an article at that time defending it, that there's a value to that ritual as well. It's not just about societal cohesion. It builds, various characteristics that are good for society. Different rituals have different purposes. It's not just societal cohesion. It's not just connection to the divine. It builds certain characteristics as well. And we must be mindful of the consequences of destroying all of this. We can see the consequences in the West, and they're not good. Now, are there some rituals which should be questioned? Yes, but we've never had that attitude in India that if a ritual has been made, it can never be questioned. Of course, it can be questioned, and of course, we can edit or adapt a certain ritual to a different age. We've done that repeatedly, but throwing it all out is never a good idea.
So I actually had a kind of an observation. So you think of any Bharatiya arts, whether it's performing arts or martial arts or any form, in fact, there is a very clear trait of sacralizing everything that we do by making it divine, wherein you give it a central deity and you have a vandana at the beginning and the vandana at the end. That's a salutation to it. And therefore, our tradition is largely oriented towards infusing the sacred spirit into everything that we do, no matter how mundane it may be. And that is perhaps most visible in the Ayuda Puja, where we even worship the equipment that is used for our professions, right? And if you look at what the entire, let's say, the Western experience has done, using the prism of reason and logic, is to secularize every aspect of their life, including the sacred, to the extent that religion itself has been secularized in their systems, which is perhaps what explains why the churches have emptied out and there is a huge vacuum in their theological needs, which other, let's say, competitors are trying to fill in. My own limited experience has been that you take out ritual, you take out the sacral aspect of your life, then you're actually creating or paving the way for a spiritual vacuum in the long run. And that would mean that you open yourself to more predatory ideologies. So, as you said, I certainly agree that ritual is a way of maintaining discipline, staying in the moment. but also realizing that there is something called sacred, and you have to value that sanctity in the first place, without which what is it that adds value to that exercise. So if I wear the same clothes and I behave the same way at my home and also at a temple, literally speaking, that I would see as a secularization of even religion. There needs to be a dress code, there needs to be a manner in which you approach the place. There are certain red lines, there are certain do's, and there are certain don'ts. This takes me to the next question, and feel free to respond to this the way you deem fit. So these days, at least over the last few years, we have seen a lot of controversy surrounding the prescription of dress codes for temples. And there are do's and don'ts. I understand the need to be modern, although I have my reservations about it. But given that the temple has a certain place and it has a certain sanctity associated with it, what is your take on dress codes for temples?
I have some views. Didi, if you want to add something, or should I answer? Sorry, go ahead.
I could add to this. I am in complete agreement with you on dress codes for temples. Going back a bit, to your previous question, the Abrahamic religions first took over the symbolic, ritualistic, pagan way of life. And then Protestant ethics actually completely denuded the religion of ritual. Sanctity of ritual was taken away from religion, and it entered the mundane life. The rituals of graduation, of even dining, rituals. It denuded the sanctity of ritual. Today we are living in, actually, if you talk about Bharat, rituals are alive and living. But if you talk about that part of India, which is more in line with the global Western way of life, the search for meaning, self-fulfillment, purpose, growth, actually these aspects, which were these needs, which were fulfilled by religion in the past, they have fallen on the fragile shoulders of love and work. So work is no longer about, earning a living, but it's about helping me self-actualize, myself. Marriages have become a means of growth and self-fulfillment, putting too much pressure on, relationships, needs that were met by religion and ritual. By having de-sanctified these needs, we are messing with the relationships, with work, with non-sacred aspects of life are being shaken up because the sacred is no longer accessible to human needs.
Agreed.
Right.
And Sai, if I can add on the, on the rituals and the dress code as well. In fact, we discussed some of this in the book on the rituals that are followed by us and what's the logic behind it. But on the dress code as well, my view is there are some adaptations that have taken place in ancient times. At least from what our grandfather was a pandit in Kashi. And used to say the traditional thing was actually men would go without an upper garment, with just the dhoti, right? That's not so anymore, right? We'll go in with a shirt, but so some, in a way, adaptation has taken place. But should you go with respect, right? If you're sitting in your home and you're wearing, running shorts, okay, your choice. If you're going to a temple, no, wear what would be called respectable clothes, right? I think that's fair to, and it's one of the things that's not just in Indian temples. I'm in Europe. I'm living in Europe for now, but if you go to churches out here, you are expected to follow a respectable code. If you go to mosques out here, for example, if you're wearing shorts, they have, these sarongs which you can tie. And it's going to a place of worship. The least you can do is show some respect, which the way I would, see it.
When you speak of prana pratishtha as part of your discussion on idols, what exactly do you see is the meaning behind prana pratishtha, and what is the consequence of it? What is it meant to do in the first place?
This can be looked at multiple levels. At a most basic level, ritual helps us bond and provides fraternity. Ritual helps us be in the present moment. At a larger level, that ritual of pran pratishtha is a fabulously empowering concept of man infusing divinity into the idol. It is so empowering because the divine exists in us all, and it is a potential which has to be realized, if not in this lifetime, in the next lifetime. Somehow, eventually, that anxiety of time running out is not there in the Hindu way of life, because, well, in some sense, we always have the next life. In this journey of self-realization. But Pran Pratishtha at its highest level is man infusing divinity into the gods. How beautiful is that?
As part of your analysis, or let's say of your understanding of idol worship or Murti Puja, have you had an opportunity to engage with communities who make these idols, who make the vigrahas, the sthapatis? Have you had an opportunity to speak with them?
Our thing was actually driven more by, we would have engaged with them at different times, not particularly for this book, because for this book, it was driven more by our personal experience and what we've read. So for example, when we were speaking of Pran Pratishtha, our grandfather had actually done a Pran Pratishtha of, the murtis that we'd had at, at home of Lord Ganesh and Lakshmi Ma. Essentially, and he knew all these rituals. So essentially pouring them in. So actually, a lot of what has gone in is actually from our personal knowledge and from stuff we've read. We have met, those who make murtis, because obviously, if we're going to have if we're going to do a Ganesh Chaturthi celebration, then we'll go and buy it. But no, it's not learning from them, not for this book, no.
Okay.
What?
Sorry, please go ahead.
No.